Okay, I want to show you how to do a multi-brimmed hat, and it'll add some dimension to your projects, and honestly, it's not as difficult as you might think. So choose however many colors, and I'll explain how it works. The brim that shows up on the most outside is your first brim, and you work in. So to show you an example, this is a multi-cup. You can do the same thing. So when you see this, there's two separate cups. See? You have to do this cup first and this one next. You can do the same thing with a hat, but I'm going to show you how to do it all around, not broken up like this. Okay? This is a guideline. Once I show it to you, the sky's the limit. Okay? Now, you can do my crocodile stitch cast on and do a few rows, and you can have little scallops, that kind of thing. You can, it really is, the sky's the limit with this, okay? So, what I'm going to do, you can either do a regular cast on, or you can do your double wrap cast on. Actually, I might just do my double wrap cast on. Okay, I've got this set up for 60 pegs, and I'm going to do a rib stitch. So I'm going to cast on my outer color, so whatever base color is. So for instance, as you saw on the sock, black was first, which is your outermost one. My top of my hat to finish the crown is going to be pink, so this is my first one. So whatever you want your crown finish to be is the color you choose first. Okay, so go ahead and cast on, and I'm doing little brims, like little multi-brims. So what you want to do is you want to cast on all the way around, and you can do this on a regular loom. You don't have to do it on an X loom. I'm going to let my crown move down. But what you want to do is you want to cast on your loom, whatever hat loom you're using, and you can do a 2x2 rib where you knit 2, purl 2 all the way around, or you can do a knit 1, purl 1 all the way around. Okay, and you're going to do that for 5 rows, alright, or however much an inch is. Could be 7 rows, however much an inch is. You can do this longer or shorter. It doesn't have to be this length, okay? But this is just a suggestion. So, I'm going to do 5 rows, okay? Because the next one will be 10 rows, okay? And I'm going to do 3 brims. You can stop at 2, but I'm going to do 3. Now, just keep in mind however much inches you got. So if I do 3 brims, I'm going to have 3 inches. And I need to subtract that from my total inches that I have to do, so that I can do the crown. So keep that in mind. So your first brim's always about an inch. It can be longer. Your second brim is 2 inches. Your third brim is 3 inches. Okay? You can do this with socks. You can do it with anything. Alright? So first, start out with the first brim. Cast on. And if you want to do rolled, you can just knit for 5 rows if you want. This is really wide open. I'm just showing you how to do multiple brims and then how to finish a hat. Okay, so 5 rows. I am personally going to do a knit 2, purl 2 all the way around for 5 rows. And then I'm going to come back with a white. We're going to do a white. And I'll show you how to do that. And you can just keep doing this. You can do most of a hat if you want, like this. But you'll want the long pegs from Cindy Wood looms. the longer your pegs are, the easier this is going to be, because when you're done with this, these stitches from this brim are going to be sitting at the bottom. While you're not touching them, you're working the next brim. So the longer your pegs are, the easier this is going to be. And this is the great thing about the new Cindywood looms and their extended pegs. Okay, so, and this is the Universal X Loom in a 1/2 inch gauge. If you're wondering, from Cindywood Looms, they have new wedges. The wedges are all one piece, and they're no longer wood, so they're kind of like the pegs, but they're all one piece. Okay, but yeah, cast on, and then do 5 rows of something. It can be the owl eye stitch. It can be anything you want. I can tell you right now, this is not my creation, but for your luck, I have seen Jerry Burgess do it on Facebook, but he doesn't do videos and he doesn't write patterns. And there's a Russian designer who does multi-cuffed socks, and I've seen both of them, and lucky for you, I can look at it and I can go in and I can show you how it's done. So this isn't my original concept. I'm showing you how it's done, but you can play with it. You can have a lot of fun with it. Okay, so get that started and we'll come back and I'll show you how to start the second one. Okay, so I did 7 rows. And what I suggest is you cut long enough tail, because you're going to need to reattach the color. And the reason being is you just don't want to sit there and go round and round and constantly have yourself tangling up with this original color, because this is the actual top of the hat. And I'll show you how to reconnect it where you're not really going to notice it at all. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to push your brim, your first brim, as far down as possible. Now here's the wonderful thing of Cindywood's new pegs. They're tall. So you're going to perform the same process. You're going to cast on all the way around. Do not touch these, okay? You're working like you're working a whole separate hat, like you're starting a new hat, but you're keeping one still on there, okay? So you're going to cast on. Just go ahead and pause the video and cast on, and I'll show you what you're going to need to do, okay? So cast on, pause the video, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, I have now cast it on. Now, what I'm going to do is knit 2, or whatever method you have been wanting. You can do the owl eye stitch, you can do a garter stitch, you can do straight knit so that it rolls. Okay, so knit 2, purl 2, and as you can see, I'm not touching that. I won't touch it the whole time. In fact, I will not touch this original color until the very last to go to start finishing the hat up. Okay, so what you want to do is do your knit 2, purl 2, and you want to double the rows. So I did 7 rows on my first one, and I want to do 14 rows on the next one. Okay, and again, you can do this on a regular loom if you would like. Just need to know that your first brim is going to be 1 inch, your next brim is going to be 2 inches, and if you're doing one after that, your next brim is going to be 3 inches, and then you need to calculate off the total for your rest of your hat. Okay, and you can finish it like a regular hat. Okay, this is just a guideline to get your creative juices running for the holiday season. And I think this multi-brimmed hat would be a hit for a Christmas gift, because you can do team colors, you can do it's really good because you can do team colors, and everybody likes a team color. Okay. Where was I? Knit. Okay. So you're going to go around and do this. You're going to do it for 14 rows. Alright? So there's 14 rows. So pause the video, knit 2, purl 2 for 14 rows, or for 2 inches, depending on what your kind of hat you're making. So it's going to be 1 inch for the first, 2 inch, and then 3 inches for the next. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video, complete 14 rows. Do not touch these stitches. Now, as you can see, I've been functioning pretty easily because of how tall these pegs are. These are the new pegs from Cindy with Looms. And if you can see, I'm also getting the stitches off on the purl really easily because of that smoother edge at the top. Also, if you are interested in the X-Loom, the wedges are wonderful. They're no longer 2 pieces, they're uniform across the board. So they're all molded. So the pegs and the base are attached, and so you have completely uniform wedges now on any of the looms that you get. Alright, so pause the video, complete your 14 rows, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to start the 3rd brim. Okay, you can stop at 2 if you only want to do 2. It's going to be the same no matter what you stop with. Okay, and I'll show you that. But if you want to do 2 brims, that's fine. And I'm going to show you 3. Most school colors have 3 colors, and it'll just kind of give you an idea on how to do some team hats, as I guess I'll call them, or some school hats that are team colors and that kind of thing. So, but this is just a starting point. You can go in, and the sky's the limit. This is just a basic technique to show you stacking. Okay, so 14 rows, and we'll come back. Okay, now you can see that we've done the 14 rows, and you might can see, particularly in the wedge area, there is your double brim. See? Okay, now we're going to shove this one down all the way. Okay, and you're not going to touch these. You're going to shove it down all the way, and you're not going to touch these either. Okay, now I'm adding my 3rd color. Now you can go as many as 7 on this, okay? But I'm just doing 3, because most school colors are 3. So you're going to cast on all the way around. Instead of 14 rows, right, you're going to be doing 3 inches worth. So for me, it's going to be 21 rows. So I'm going to do 21 rows of purple, okay? So I'm going to cast on, and then I'm going to knit 2, purl 2 for 21 rows, okay? And I'm not touching these, I'm not touching them, okay? Not touching them, okay? Don't touch them. Work the brim without them, okay? So you're going to be doing just like we did with the last one, where you're not touching the pink, you're not touching the blue and the pink this time, but you're working another brim. 21 rows after your cast on, just like we did the blue, but you're doing an extra inch. You're doing 7 rows. As you can see, when you're done, you'll have purple section here, okay, hanging out. But the base of your hat's going to be this color here. And I'm going to show you how to, once you get your 3 brims done, how you're going to connect it all, okay? So, this part I'm not going to show you how to prep because we just did it with the last one. You're just doing extra rows, you're doing extra inch. So 21 rows, so the first one was 7, the next one was 14, and the next one is 21. When you're done, we'll come back and I'll tell you how to go in and work your way to finishing this hat and how you do it after you've done these 3 brims. But as you can see, when you look on the other side, you can already see the 2 brims, particularly at the wedge marks, okay? And when you're done with your 21 rows and you pull them out a little bit, you'll see your 3rd brim. But go ahead, pause the video, cast on, knit 2, purl 2, 21 rows or 3 inches, depending on what your loom is. Because you can do this on any loom, any gauge. You're wanting an inch per brim. You can do 7 brims if you want one, however much, but you got to keep up with that so that you know whether you need to do less when you get to the top of the hat. So you got to keep up with how many, because this is going to be 3 inches when I'm done here, and you've got to calculate in those 3 inches when you got to calculate in the full length. Okay, but pause the video, get that much done. We'll come back and I'll show you how to work it all together and how you can go in and do more brims. But I'm going to show you how to put it all together and how we can go in to finish up the hat. Okay, so I've done my 21 rows, should have 3 inches. And give you a closer look at what we got here. So there's your first brim, there's your second, and here's your third. Okay. Now, let's take a look back over here and see what we got. Now, you should see your 3 colors. Come on, let's focus up. There we go. Here's your 3 colors. Okay, and as you can see, I've already cut the purple. Alright, so what I'm going to show you is going to work like this if you're wanting to do more brims than 3. Okay, if you're wanting to do more brims than 3, this is how it's going to work after every brim. Just know on your last brim that you do, you're wanting to bring the first brim and the last one you do together. Okay, now what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and tie off my purple that I've done. Okay, now what I want to do right now is I'm going to start pulling it all up. We're fixing to start working most of the hat. So we're going to start pulling it up. It starts making sense. Alright, let's see if we can do this. You're going to pull the blue one over the purple. Now, this works this way. If you're going to do another color, you go in and you do your other color and you do an extra inch. If you wanted to do a 4th color, then you toss over the purple. The reason why you don't toss over the pink is you want it to be seamlessly moved in, the pink, to move into the bulk of the hat. So what you want to do is you want to go all the way around, pulling the blue over the top of the purple. Okay. Then, once you go all the way around and you do that, you're going to reattach your main color. Now we have done 3, we have done 3 inches. Okay. Now, because I'm making this for my daughter, it needs to be 7 inches, and I need to approximately calculate in some rows for my crown. But if you're doing this on a round loom, you don't have to do that. You just minus the 3 from the 7. If you're doing something for like anywhere in children's sizing, you know what you'll do is you will, I'm doing a magic knot, by the way, magic knot or fisherman's knot. And the benefit of that is you can go pretty darn close. It ends up being a seamless connection and secure. Alright, so you're going for 7 inches. I've already done 3, and so I've got to include my crown, a couple of rows in between, and so I'm going to need to do, I think it was 14 rows. I wrote a note here somewhere. But I'm pretty sure it was 14 for if you're doing the X loom, because you've got to decrease all these and you have a couple of rows in between. But if you're doing just a regular loom, you definitely want to go ahead and do, I believe, 28. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you want to do 28 rows. So if you're doing a regular loom and you're doing this, do 28 rows and then do your drawstring bind off. And if you're doing this on the X loom or the flexi loom, then you'll want to go ahead and do 14 rows and be ready to start doing your decreasing. Now, once you go in and you toss the blue all the way around, what you're going to do is you're going to toss the purple and the pink over the top. This is for the last brim. So if you're doing this for more than one, whatever your last brim is that you're wanting to do, that is when you get to toss over the 2 colors. Okay, so that's when you get to toss over the last brim and the first brim together. The last brim and the first brim together. Those are your stitches. Okay, so you're going to do that all the way around. And what you can do, because as you noticed I didn't do it all the way around on the blue, what you can do is you can be tossing the blue and then doing your main color. So I'm going to tell you right now, after you do this, so I haven't tossed my blue yet, so I'll go ahead and toss it. So after you do this, you're just going to do regular knit rows, or if you want to do a stitch of some sort, you can. This is just a guideline. I'd really like to see what you'll come up with. Go on my Loom Muse Facebook page and show me what you got, kind of thing. But what I want to do is I want to see y'all's creativity come into play. So I'm showing you how to do this. Y'all can do the brims whatever way you want. If you're wanting to do the fan cast on, which is kind of like the crocodile stitch, but it's a cast on before you can do the crocodile stitch a lot of times. You can do a knit stitch after it for how many rows you need. Okay, just know that you're trying to keep up with how many inches. So it's an inch for the first brim, it's 2 inches for the next one, and it's 3 for the next one. 4, 5, 6. You can do 7 brims so that you're not even having to do a chunk of a hat. But I have a feeling it's going to be thick and it's going to be warm. So I think 3 is good. You could do 4, but I don't think you need to go that much further. So let's toss over our blue. But after you get all the way around, you're just going to knit. You're just going to knit, 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 knit. Alright, for if you're doing this loom or the flexi loom, then you'll want to go for 14 rows. And if you're doing the You may go for 14 rows, I don't think so. So if you're going like decrease in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that's another 2 inches. Yeah. If you're doing 2 rows in between your decreases, then you'll have your 14. So yeah, you'll want to do 14 rows, and if you're working with a regular loom, it's going to be 28 rows, okay? Mostly what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to 7 inches, because this does not fold, so it is an exact beanie, and whoever you're making it for, you better know what it is. And how I do that is I usually go to where I normally have the hat end on the back of the neck, and where I normally have it go from on the front of the face, and I measure it from there to there, and then I go in and divide it in half, because you're working both halves at once. So that's kind of a rule of thumb if you're making a beanie to exact sizing like this. Right, and you do need to know your inches, your swatches on one, but this one with the worsted weight is 7 rows per inch, but if you're using the fatter stuff on the 1/2 inch gauge, which I do on occasion, I think it goes to 5 rows per inch, so it will vary depending on the yarn you're using. So keep that in mind. So what I'm going to tell you to do is go ahead and pause the video and complete your rows. And if you're doing the round loom version, this is probably the last you'll need of this video. You'll do your 28 rows, and then you'll do your preferred drawstring bind off. We all have our different bind offs and what we choose. When I was doing my bind off for round looms, I always used my fine gauge drawstring bind off. It works nicely and smoothly, particularly when you have a lot of pegs. So I do have that in my repertoire of videos. You can go check that out if you want, on how to go about doing it. And I think I did it on this the same peg count. So I think it was 60, and now how to do it. And so you should be able to follow it if you're doing the 60 pretty easily, if you want to do that. Okay, now there's a little bit of extra rowing there, but not by much, so you might could cut an inch off of your total, because I think I almost do 7 rows, because I think I do it half of the half of the pegs decrease, and then I do the other half, and then I draw a string off, and there's a few rows in between. So if that's the case, then you might want to subtract an inch, as I've calculated in on my rows here. So now if we want to go a little further, I'm looking at this, now that we're loosening it up, like that. There's your bottom brim, there's your middle one, and there's your last one. So again, this will depend on your loom you're using, how many rows you're going to need to do. Just know you need to calculate in, when you're doing your crown, your decreases. Okay, so you just need to calculate in your decreases. And then your rows in between. So typically I'll do 2 rows in between. You can do 1 row in between. Just know you need to calculate for it and adjust for how many rows you're doing here. Okay? And when you do that, it goes a long ways. Right? So go ahead and finish this up, and then just keep going round and round on your knit. And just knit over, knit, knit, knit. And again, if you're using this loom, you want to knit for 14 rows because you're going to do 2 inches of stuff for the crown. And if you're doing a round loom, you want to do approximately 28 rows, and this is a 7-inch hat that we're doing in length. If you're doing a larger head, you'll need to make adjustments. If it needs to be 8 or 9 inches, you can make adjustments, okay? So this is more of a calculated up, be creative, that kind of thing. But I will provide a written pattern for this basic design and how you adjust it for different looms, okay? And don't worry about that. So if you're on the round loom, you're pretty much done. If you're on this loom and you want to see how to do the crown, or if you've done the, or if you have a method that you do a crown on flexi loom or something, you can go ahead and do that now. Just make sure that you calculate in your, calculate it in, okay? So I'm going to show you how I do it on my X loom, but if you have a way after you do your rows that you want to do it, you can go to that video and do it, and you can do it whatever method way you want, okay? This is just a guideline. So after you do your rows, you can go off and if you're on a flexi loom and you want to do like a star stitch, you need to calculate in for how many that is and subtract if you're doing more rows than 14. Okay, so but it's really not difficult. It's like working a regular hat, and let me tell you, with the taller pegs from Cindy Wood Looms, you can see how this was made really easy. And that's one of the things that I really pushed heavy when they were wanting to redesign, because I do a lot of stuff like this where you have a lot of stitches sitting on the pegs. And so these new pegs are wonderful. I'm really loving the new wedges. They're consistent. And the pegs are still just as strong as they were before. And it's easy to purl over now because you have that gray, that instead of a rigid line there that you got to get over, it's smoother. So if you're a Cindy Wood fan, I'd go in and get your favorite loom with these new pegs, because these new pegs are awesome. They're amazing. And the wedges are now solid pieces, so there's a whole new product line, and they've got the new, I want to say, the 7/16. They have a new gauge that's wider than the hat. Yeah, I think it's a little wider than the 1/2-inch gauge. I can show you if you're interested. I did the corset sock with the new gauge they've got out. So they have a new gauge out with new pegs and new wedges, and it is really made wonderful improvements in the projects you can do. You can do projects like this with ease. If you're working with other brands, they have shorter pegs, and so they may be a little more difficult. But with these longer pegs, it really makes a difference. And I think y'all are going to love doing this concept on y'all's looms because it's not hard. It's really easy. Okay. Now we just keep moving on. So, and what you'll find is when you save that last brim to go over with you save the first brim and the last brim and you take those over at the same time, you'll have a seamless connection and you don't see the last brim that you did. You only see the first brim when you do that. Okay? So that's the reason why you do that. Alright, so go ahead and complete however many rows you need to complete depending on the loom you're on. And on this one, I believe I have these two to do first because I think they're at one extra more than those, so we may need to get us back to even and then go from there. So, but pause the video, get your rows done, and then we can go from there. And I think we are looking really good right now. So we're almost done. I'll show you the rest if y'all are working on a similar loom that I'm on. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here's your first brim, here's your second, here's your third. Alright, I'm done with 14 rows, now I gotta finish this half. Now, when it came to doing this, you'll notice that it's not even. These are more than these. We need to catch these up. Okay. So, what you want to do is decrease those down. And so you want to move the wedge down 1 notch. Decreasing is very easy on the X-line. Okay. So, move it down 1 notch. Take the stitch off, move it up. Take the stitch off, move it up. And this is a wedge decrease. We do the same thing on the other side. And when you get to these pegs, you're going to knit both these stitches over. Now you should be back to even. Okay. At this point, you're going to knit your way around. And you're going to do 2 rows. This starts working up your crown area. Okay, when you get to these wedge pegs that have been decreased, you want to make sure that you knit both stitches over. There's one and two. There's one, there's two. Okay. Then you just knit your way around. So you're going to knit your way around, get the other side. Then you're going to knit for 2 rows. So you're going to knit for 2 rows after this one. You're going to come back, and then it's going to be all 4. And then you're going to start the pattern, okay, until it's done. But in the meantime, keep your go-yard way around back to the start. Make sure you knit the 2 stitches over here on these. Then do 2 rows of knit. 1, 2. Then come back. And then we'll start all 4, okay? Pause the video, get that much done. Okay, so we're to the finish up at this point. That was prepping, now we're going to finish. From here on out is a 3-row repeat until you get to your very last decrease, and then you won't do any knitting 2 rows after it, okay? But here's what you want to do. You want to go in and you want to decrease all 4 wedges. So you're going to knit all 4 wedges down in one side. I had showed you on the previous, but it's all 4 rather than just 2. Okay. And then you've got to move your 2 stitches over. And just like we did before, you're going to knit the 2 stitches over on your wedge pegs. Then you knit your 1 row around, and that's your decrease row. So your decrease row is this. Then you're going to do 2 rows of knit after that. Okay. So you move everything around. And you're going to continue this process until you can't do it anymore. And when you get to the very last decrease, you don't do any rows after you do the decrease row. Then you'll be ready to draw string binding. Okay. So there you have that. Alright, you've decreased all the way around. Okay. So at this point, you work your way around. And you knit all 4 wedges, the 2 stitches on the wedges over. So 1, 2, 1, and 2. Okay. So you're going to do that all the way around. Alright, you're going to knit all the way around getting those wedge pegs. Then you're going to knit 2 rows. So then you're going to go 1, 2. Then you're going to decrease again, just like we just did, and knit around, and you're going to do 2 rows of knit. 1, 2. You're going to decrease it down, knit around, and then do 2 rows of 1, 2. Do this until you have no more, which should put you about right here. When you get there, decrease, then stop. Don't do anything else. Come back and we'll be ready to draw string bind off. So pause the video, get your crown down, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to finish up, and then we can see our finished product. And if you did the double wrap cast on, I'm going to show you a trick if you want it a little tighter, because you'll notice it's kind of loose. If you have a small crochet hook, I'll show you how to go in and clean up the edge. Okay? So, pause the video, finish up the crown, and we'll be ready to do a drawstring bind off. Okay, here's what we got. 3 brims, and we're down to our bind off. Now, this got down, and whatever loom you're using, you just get it down as far as you can get it. This one goes about down to 20. You could get it even further, but you're going to have the gap here. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to do a decrease on every other one, and then go back and do another. So we're going to toss that over. I'm going to cut me a long tail. Then we're going to pull through. Skip the next one. Toss it over. So you should have a stitch on every other peg. Alright. Toss over. Pull through. Every other peg should have a stitch. You can drawstring all of it together, but you'll still have a little bulk. This gets you down pretty far, and then you have a bulky area going. Okay. Okay. You make it all the way to here, back to your starting point. You're going to skip this first stitch. And what you're going to find when you start taking off the rest of them, you'll be able to see your first pull string. Okay. And that's what you want. So toss over, pull through. And what this does is it gets you down to 10 stitches. They're stacked up on underneath, and then 10 stitches on top, and it gives you a smoother crown finish on your drawstring, so you don't have to worry about it. Make life easier on yourself. Okay. Almost there. And I'll show you how to do this. How to tell which is a pull. A lot of times people will show you with 2 separate strings. I'll show you how to do it with 1 string. But you gotta know how to blow to pull. Alright, last one. Okay. Pull through. Alrighty. So here's the thing. There's your finish. Okay. You know that's your finish. You know that's your first pull. So you see your finished tail. That's what you're going to pull first. The string right behind it. Going to go ahead and pull it first. You see it's gathered the inside. Okay. Then you can pull on your tail, and it's gathered the outside. See? There. And it's actually more secure to do it that way, because look, you can kind of pull on it, and it ain't going to come undone. What I usually like to do is send a needle through this section, go round and round and round, and you can actually cut it. Alright, so there's your hat. Your multi-brimmed hat. Now this should be about 7 inches. I don't think I have my tape measure over here. It should be 7 inches to make it a non-folding brim hat, because you don't want it to fold, so you can see all the brims. okay? Unless you're going to fold it up, which you can see that's nice and neat. And you can fold it up, but then guess what? You start missing it. Folds up nicely there, don't it? Okay. There you have it. A multi-brimmed hat. Now, I don't have a crochet hook on me right this minute, but what you can do if you're not happy with the finished look of the area, it's whatever cast on you prefer. What you can do is you can take on crochet hook and you can send it through there. But usually I like to go the opposite direction, so I usually like to start here because there's your starting point. Start here and work your way around, and what you'll do is you'll pick up that loop, and then you'll pick up that one, and then you'll, let's see if I can get it closer. Okay, so here's your starting point. I usually like to go in the opposite direction, so you pick this up and this one up, and then you're going to pull this one through. Then you pick up the next one and pull it through. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a nice chain. And so you're just going to pull it through, pull it through, pull it through all the way around. And what it'll do is it'll snug up those ends and give you a really nice clean look. Okay. So that's if you want to. It will make it less stretchy, because right now it's real stretchy. But if you want a cleaner line, that's what you can do. Alright? And then you want to secure off the top of your hat. But typically if you're just starting out, this isn't going to be a hat you typically start out with unless you want to. Alright, but there is how you make a multi-brimmed hat. Now, you can do one that is got 2 inches between your brims. You can adjust this any way you want. It doesn't have to be like this. This is a guideline. You can play with it. You can do whatever you want. It's just to let you know that you start with this one and then move your way down. Add an inch. You can do 2 inches instead of 1 inch if you want. But you have to know your rows per inch. So you should do a swatch just to know what you're dealing with. Okay. And as you can see, with a 1/2 inch gauge, it stretches pretty good. So, there you have it. Alright? That is how you make a multi-brimmed